Today we're going to do section 9.4, areas of circles. So find your page of notes here and we're going to go through this here. If you notice, the area of a circle is simply pi radius squared. If you notice, there's nothing to do with the diameter here. Area is only dealing with the radius. So it doesn't matter if they give us the diameter or the radius. We have to always change it to the radius. So let's work through some problems and see how this works out. Okay, our area equation, remember, is area equals pi radius squared. In example 1 here, they gave us a radius. Remember, the radius is from the center of the circle to the outside edge. So they give us the length of it right here as 3 centimeters. We're going to put that in place here of r. So we have 3 squared. Now we've got to do our math. We're going to go ahead and use 3.14, not our pi button on our calculator, just 3.14, so we're all the same when we do our math. And now we need to square it. Now square does not mean 3 times 2 to get 6. Square means I'm going to take that number and multiply it by itself. So square means 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. Now we're just going to do the multiplication. 9 times 3.14 gives me a total of 28.26. We're going to leave it in the hundredths position. We're not going to round or anything. When you do your homework, check to see what the book asks you to round to. Now we can't forget, they gave us our units, so we need to attach centimeters. And because we're doing area, we're going to have centimeters squared. Okay, number 2 is the exact same thing. We got to use our equation, area equals pi radius squared. But if you notice, they gave us a diameter. We only need radius. So to find our radius, we cut our diameter in half. The diameter goes from edge to edge. We're only interested in the center to the edge. So half of 10 is 5. So I have 5 squared. Now we're going to use 3.14 for pi. And what is 5 squared? 5 squared is 25. Multiply them together and you end up with 78.5. Look for units again. We've got centimeters and it's going to be centimeters squared. Now, we can have problems that don't give us a circle or anything. They just give us the basic important information that we need to know. They told us here we have a circle with a radius of 6 centimeters. Plug that into our equation. Pi times 6 squared. Do the math. Pi is 3.14. 6 squared is 36. Multiply them together and you end up with 113.04. We've got units, centimeters, and we square it. Same thing when they give us our diameter. Same equation, pi radius squared. But here's the thing. We need to take they gave us diameter. We need to take half of that. Half of 5 is 2.14. Sorry, no it's not. It's 2.5. I was getting pi mixed in with that. Okay. 2.5 and we need to square it. Now, I'm going to show you how to work with your calculator here a minute. Okay, our calculators can help us out here. Okay, we're going to use 2.5, put that in our calculator, and on my calculator here I have the x squared button. Hit that and then enter. That actually squares it. So I have 6.25. Now just go ahead and hit the multiply button and do 3.14 and I get my answer of 19 point, let's round it to hundredths like we have been doing. So my answer is 5. 5 and higher, we round the number up. So I get 6.3 and I've got meters squared. Okay, look at number 5. Number 5 is a little weird looking because they don't use pi as 3.14. They want us to use a fraction. Fraction is okay for pi because pi is the diameter and the circumference is the ratio of them. So this is the normal number for it. We just like to use the decimal form of it. What we're going to do is the same way we've been working with it. Area equals pi, which in this case is 22 over 7, times our radius squared. Well, they give us a diameter. Remember, if I'm doing radius, I need to cut that in half, so I get 14 squared. Now, we're working with fractions. Leave it as a fraction. Any whole number has 1 in the denominator, and I now need to square 14. I have to do that first. So 14 squared ends up being 196. Okay, that's going to be a really large number if I multiply. So let's see if I can do some canceling out. I can't do anything here, but I do know that 7 goes into 196 28 times. Now I have 1's in my denominator, so that makes it nice and easy because 1 times 1 is 1. I'm not going to write it because it's understood as 1. Now I just need to multiply the numerators. 22 times 28. Do that out and you end up with 616. I still got to use my centimeters and square it. Okay, so that's working with our basic equation for finding area. Now we can take that knowledge and make things a little bit harder. Look at our examples down at the bottom. We're going to use our area equation to help find missing information. And the missing information that we need to find, in this case, problem 1 says, find the circumference of a circle whose area is 36 pi meters squared, and then leave the circumference in terms of pi. So my final answer is actually circumference. But if you notice when we read it through, they gave me nothing about what the radius was. I need to find the radius, and I'm going to do that by using my equation for area equals pi r squared. Now let's use the information they gave me. The only thing they gave me was that the area was 36 pi. Now we're going to leave it in terms of pi. We're not going to multiply it out and do 3.14 because remember, pi is an irrational number. It continues on, and we always end up having to, if we do decimal form, we have to round it. So we're more interested in what the radius is, not pi. So we're going to leave it in pi. And now I'm going to cancel things out here because I need to get radius all by itself. So if I divide the right by pi to just get my radius, what I do to one side, I have to do the other. This actually cancels out my pi, so I'm not even worried about multiplying it. So I'm left with 36 equals radius squared. Well, I want radius, not radius squared. So how do I undo a squared? That's right, I have to take the square root of both sides. Remember how we worked with that in the Pythagorean theorem? So now when I take the square root of both sides, I end up with r equals square root of 36 is 6. So there's my radius. That's part 1 of the problem. I still need to do a little bit more to actually get what they're asking me for, which is the circumference. So we have to go back and remember, what is circumference? The equation for circumference is 2 pi r. So I'm going to go ahead now and insert my radius, which I just found, into the equation and multiply it out. 2 times 6 is 12, and I get pi. And they told me to leave it in terms of pi, so right there is my answer. I also need to attach the meters to it. Okay, so I can use the area equation to find the missing radius and then take it one more step and find what the circumference is. Question 2 is basically the same way, but they're not asking me for circumference now. They want me to actually find what the diameter is. So I'm going to go back and start off just like I did up here. I'm going to use my area equation, pi radius squared, to find what the radius is. They give me the area is 16 pi. Now to get r by itself, remember I divide by pi. That cancels everything out, and so I'm left with 16 equals radius squared. How do I undo a square? Take the square root, and I'm left with the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of a square is r. Now, what are they asking for? They're asking me for a diameter. Remember, the diameter is actually 2 times the radius because it's 2 of them. So my final answer, 2 times 4, is 8 inches. That's my answer for this problem. Now look at our last 2 problems. The last 2 problems look really intimidating. I've got a square with a circle inside of it. They want me to find the area of only these tiny little triangles that are on the outside. How do I work with that? Actually, what I need to do is I need to find the area of both of these things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of my squared. What is the area of the squared? Remember, it's side squared. So I'm going to get the area of that, and then I'm going to subtract the circle. And how do I find the area of a circle? It's pi radius squared. So now let's put our information in. What is the side of my square? Side of my square is 12. Okay, now I've got pi, so I'm going to go 3.14. Now the radius. How do I know what the radius is? Well, take a look down here. The sides of my square are 12. That is actually a diameter. So the diameter is 12. What is half of 12? Because that's the radius from the center to the edge. It's 6. So I have 6 squared. So now we're going to do the math. 12 squared is 144. 6 squared is 36. And so I'm going to do 36 times 3.14. And when I do the math of that, let me go ahead and do it quickly on my calculator. We've got 36 times 3.14, and I get 113.04. Now I'm going to subtract that from 144 because that was the area of my square. Subtract the white circle, and that will leave me the dark edges. So when I do that, I am going to end up with 30.96. We were doing inches, and we're still doing area, so it's got to be squared. Now number 4, we're going to do it the exact same way. I've just got 2 circles I need to find. I've got the circle that is dark, and I got the circle that is white. I want to know what this dark region, the shaded region, is. So I'm going to find the area of my big circle first. So I've got pi. What is the radius of the big circle? Well, if you notice, I have the edge that goes all the way to the here, and it gives me 11. So I've got 11 squared. Now, I'm going to go ahead and subtract the area of my little circle, which is pi. And if you notice, they gave me the radius here for the little one as 6. Now let's do our math. 11 squared is 121 pi. And I've got 36 pi. Subtract the 2, and 121 minus 36 gives me 85 pi. Now let's insert 3.14 for pi to get my final measurement. And when I multiply them out, I get 266.9. I've got centimeters, and I'm dealing with area again, so it's squared. I hope this makes sense to you. If you have any questions, go ahead and post your questions on Google Classroom or send me an email. Have a good day.